Good morning and welcome to the new edition, the fresh edition of Saturday Special. The humility is a badge, and that badge is supposed to be a badge of virtue, a badge that is sought by everybody in a position of influence, from politicians to executives to artists and to icons of society in any sector. And yet, to understand the reality, this is a badge which is more often a mask than the reality. It's very difficult for a genuine person to be genuinely humble. Whether you are CEO of a business conglomerate or you are CEO of a country, being the president and the prime minister, you have a certain obligation. And one of the most sought after is to create a halo of humility. But in reality, the humble CEO is a romantic departure from the greedy, self-serving corporate heroes or politicians. And rather than when faced with adversity, these CEOs, humble CEOs, are supposed to sacrifice their own interest for the greater good. And can you study the history and reveal even 5 persons who have sacrificed their own interest for the greater good, despite the fact that people like Warren Buffett gave 99% of their wealth in charity? Bill Gates is doing a lot for the charity, but are they really humble? It is often said that the humble leaders are the most modest, emotionally stable, eager to work, and unsurprisingly, they are supposed, again emphasizing supposed, less likely to display self-aggrandizing traits as narcissism. But tell me the experience. Human beings start with being selfish. And CEOs are human beings. Again, I repeat, CEOs either of the corporate sector or of any other sector. And despite humility, they have got to perform better. Humility as a mask is a good for business, but to be genuinely humble is practically next to impossible. This product called success culls humility, destroys humility. A distinctive strength of humble leader is self-awareness, confidence in their own abilities, paired with accurate self-appraisal of their limitations. Yet people often overestimate their virtues and underestimate their limitations and the weaknesses. And therein, overestimation of the weakness or the strength and underestimation of the weakness, and the person loses all humility. And then humility comes as a mask to cover those limitations. People always think that CEOs are better than the average. They're smarter, they're quick thinking, they're more perceptive, and yes, that's a fact. But the risk of overestimating their strength is always there. A key reason for this is the CEOs are a byproduct of their career success, highly confident. Whether the CEO climbs the rung of the ladder, the corporate ladder, or is a celebrity, which is parachuted in, like Reagan became the president, he was parachuted in. Donald Trump, again parachuted in. But Modi climbed the rungs of the success to the ladder. Similarly, in the corporate sector, Sundar Pichai is parachuted in, but Gates and Steve Jobs climbed the success of the ladder. So, ultimately, whatever way you become CEO, you have successfully outcompeted other capable and confident people for the job. So whether you are parachuted in or you have achieved through the successive rungs of ladder, it is undeniable that you have pulled the carpet from under the feet of your competitors. And the confidence that accrues with a career success for leading the organization is a mixed blessing. The same string of career wins may lead a success to overpraise their strengths while attributing the role of the other factors, even luck, in their achievements. And that ignoring of the other factors also makes them more confident or rather overconfident. And while donning the mask of humility, they are really as sharp as they can never be. Then, many times people say that overconfidence can harm organizations. The CEOs who overestimate their capabilities in the countries have led the countries to the war. Look at Hitler, look at Mussolini, look at Tojo, look at Ayub Khan. Overestimating their strength, they led the countries to the war, and that's happening in South Korea today. In the corporate sector, overestimating your strength, ignoring the chinks in the armor of your organizations, destroys those organizations. And history is replete with such failures. When you're overestimating your strength, you take undue risk, introduce unsuccessful products, and have more volatile performance. Highs and lows. The stability is lacking, but highs and lows are required. Let's be very honest. Acting like a CEO, if it's finding very difficult to find a authentically humble CEO, which is real, looking for a personality for a CEO makes the complicate matters further. When you're looking for a CEO, you always don't look for the capabilities. You think whether the man would act like a CEO. Now imagine, in USA all the time, the criticism was that the president was not acting presidential. We have set parameters for CEOs, be they the president, the prime minister, or the head of the organization. So those parameters influence our thought, and we want them to act like that. If you remember the old story of King Stork and King Log, people didn't like King Log because he was not harsh. They wanted King Stork. In India, the most success in the beginning, when India became independent, as compared to was because the prime minister was not acting rashly. Maybe the circumstances were different, but he provided stability, and that made for the success of the country. Modi is doing the same thing. But when that stability results in inertia, as happened in the time of Manmohan Singh, then it complicates the matter further. So we look for a certain profile of the people, and an humble person doesn't fit into that profile. People want male alpha plus. And that's why you rarely see people like Indira Gandhi, people like Margaret Thatcher, or people like Golda Meir, the women. They are women, they are alpha plus, but they are not males, and yet they come in power. So the priorities are always alpha male plus, A plus, then female alpha plus, then male alpha A, no longer plus, and like that it goes on and on. And these specific jobs of the CEOs attract specific personalities. When you cast a vote, you do not cast a vote on the capability, but how the person looks and acts. And the CEOs and the political heads are higher than the general population on personality, achievement-oriented, ambitious, sensitive, and risk preference. Individuals with some of the combinations, other traits, are adept at pretending to fit in that profile. I repeat the word pretending. They may not fit, but they pretend to fit. And that is why they become CEOs. You know, the narcissists, we blame the people, CEOs for being narcissists. I myself been blamed for that. And they're particularly adept at appearing charismatic at the first term. The charismatic in turn is being considered always a desirable feature of CEOs. And charismatic CEOs, whether again in politics or in business structure, have the greatest command. Now imagine, Manmohan was not charismatic, he was intelligent. Modi is charismatic. Kennedy was charismatic. Johar and Indira were charismatic. Others were not. Now, what happens is that charismatic people always are narcissists. Always, without exception. And how can you expect a narcissist person to be humble? He may pretend to be humble, to mislead you, and to show that despite his capabilities, he is humble. But in reality, no, cannot be. Genuine humility is a very scared personality, and it is in fact leading to death. Now, what are the hurdles to the humility? The first is, when you are at the top of a ladder, it's very lonely at the top. And actively seeking advice of others is taken as a sign of weakness. And yet people say teamwork. So they show that they are having meetings. I remember Abraham Lincoln, he was chairing a cabinet. His 7 secretaries were there. And all the 7 secretaries opposed his proposal. And then he said, 7 nays, 1 aye, and ayes have it. So despite the opposition by others, he went through. So high-performing people with characteristic ability to take decisions quickly, that leads to narcissism, leads to pride, leads to inflation of ego. And naturally, humility takes a back door. But then people expect the person to be humble, so then they make a mask, put it on, and under the mask they are narcissists. Then the CEOs are supposed to provide precise forecast in an uncertain future. You don't know what your enemy might do, what your competitor might do, but you have to show that your forecast of the political action or of the economic action is correct. So self-awareness at that time is required. And in case they fail in their forecast, then they have to find suitable alibis. So analysts tend to rate optimist forecasts more favorably. When the president and the prime minister says that I'm going to provide you with the jobs and the jobs are provided, naturally the people, despite the carping of the critics, would go in for that. And highly accomplished professionals are self-aware in all stages of their career, and CEOs normally, when they are nearing the retirement, when they're closer to retirement, get humble because they have secured their niche. So humility at that time, the genuine humility, replaces the mask of the humility. And the memory of the people is very short. People forget what happened earlier. They only remember the last action. And that often leads the historians to the mistaken notions. They consider the actions of an individual near the retirement as the epitome of all the actions he has done before. And the reality the other way around. So experience and age might offset. I became a CEO at the age of 44. My son became like that. It's difficult not to be intoxicated by the, not by the authority, but by the sense of responsibility. You have to do it. So, humility is a risk in the leadership buzzword. These organizations, any organization political, country as a whole, corporate, religious sect, you will find the leaders always talk in humility, talk of humility, but in reality they are egoists. It's a contradiction in terms to expect a leader to be humble, to expect a CEO to be humble. As a humble CEO, you simply cannot deliver what is sought from you. Think about it and then stop carping about a person being humble or need to be humble. Thank you.